There you are. My name is MC Botha. I'm associated with University of Stellenbosch Business School Executive Development. I head the unit for project management training. I've been in the project business for about 30 years, last 12, 13 years in the academic space, and prior to that in practice. With me is my good friend and colleague Coenie, Dr. Coenie Nel. Coenie, will you introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. It's good to be here. It's good to see you all. Yes, I'm currently working quite a lot in the project and the project management environment. I'm a civil engineer by the start of my career, and then after that, quite a passion for business, and then moving into the project management environment, in which I'm sort of full-time involved at the moment. Interesting times we're living in, and it's interesting to be able to think that you can sit here in your room talking to close to 200 people about project management, which I know me and MC both have a passion for. Thanks, MC.
Thanks, Coenie. I'm not quite sure whether I should call you colleagues or participants, but everybody on the webinar, Coenie and I are going to discuss two sub-themes. The primary theme is the role of project management in organizations during and post-COVID-19, but then we've broken that down into two sub-themes, and the themes are taking into consideration what is currently happening in the world. How do we see the role of project management in organizations, especially on a strategic role? And Coenie will talk about that. And how can this be applied to ensure organizational resilience or survival through successful projects? That's the first sub-theme. And the second sub-theme is, if you look at some of the organizations, the adaptations that have taken place over the last 3 weeks with lockdown, and how we've got accustomed to a new way of communication, what will be the impact post-COVID on project execution? Coenie, can I ask that you commence with just establishing a linkage between projects and strategy for us, please?
Good. Yeah, projects. Thanks, MC. I always say projects are interesting thing to talk about, because you can say, well, it's pretty much very functional. So you've got a job to finish, and you've got some constraints in terms of that, and you do the job. I spent quite a bit of my academic career on looking into the strategic value that project management can bring to the organization. And it's of vital importance to know that if you are, especially the more you go towards the project environment where you sell projects or the products of projects in the organization that you are busy with, it becomes so important to think, but listen, project management is not just a functional issue that we can deal with as a normal low-level function within the organization. And it becomes such a strategic importance for the organization. So we talk about how can you apply your project management function to become more competitive or sustainable competitive in the organization that you are busy with. So when we talk about strategy, you say, but in the long term, strategy is how do you direct your organization in the long term towards where you want to. Very interesting times where strategy, we are really being shaken to our strategy at this moment, because everybody going to sit back and think, yes, what is the strategy currently doing? Which direction should we go with all of these changes going on? But I mean, we can't sit in a world where we are so competitive in our projects and just think we're gonna deal with projects on a very low level, very functional, very systematic way of going forward. So, MC, I know you've got some thoughts on the business case and the role that plays within organization strategy.
Coenie, thank you. I want to share a quote with our attendees, and it's a quote by Joel Arthur Baker, and that links exactly to what Coenie has said. Joel said the following: "Vision without action is merely a dream. Action without vision just passes the time, but vision with action can change the world." And what the implication of that for project management is, vision is the strategy that we talk about, and action is the implementation of projects which will make your strategy a reality. Now, from a project management perspective, in order to embark on a project, we need a business case. We need a reason. And that reason then, Coenie, is tied to the strategy that you spoke about. Now, colleagues, the strategy is the rationale or the reason of the existence of the project. And that business case apologies, the business case is the reason for the existence of the project. And that business case should tie into your strategy, either being it on a functional level or on a new product level or penetrating a market or whatever the case may be. What has now happened with COVID is that the existence of the business case and the composition of the business case is under jeopardy, because when we started planning prior to COVID, we had a specific intention of achieving a certain outcome at a given point in time against the budget. And that resonated with the business case. Now, unfortunately, in the 3 weeks or 3.5 weeks of lockdown, I think the world has changed. Coenie, and I think from your side, the strategy, therefore, should be then readjusted in terms of business redefinition going forward.
That's it. That's it. And the role projects play within that. Because we know that if you talk strategy, and this is not a strategy course or strategy session, but you start on a high level, say, what is my soft things I want to reach? Where do I want to be as an organization in the long run? Yeah. Hopefully, we haven't shaken ourselves up too much to change that, because we know that the most successful organizations are the ones with the most constant vision. But I mean, we have to start at the top and say, okay, listen, where do we want to be? And then you start systematically breaking that softer vision down into goals and objectives. And I always say, if you we've got a very nice slide we use in class where you say right at the bottom, all of these are supported by projects. So your foundation of change or your foundation of strategy is projects. No? It's dealing with, and that's the link what you're talking about, is the link between the business, the project and the business is the business case. To say that's the integration between saying, are we taking on the right projects? Because there's one level of success where you say we're executing projects successful, but are we actually spending time on the right projects? And that's something that we really need to revisit and look from now on going forward and say, but listen, this is something we need to look at. Something else that I'm just thinking of. Yeah, sorry.
No, Coenie, I just want to say I absolutely agree with you. Going forward, and we'll talk about that under the second sub-theme, colleagues, is that the fact is that this is a economic fatality. I'm not quite sure what the right word is, but it's an economic reality that is universal. And the implication of that is that money post-COVID is the issue, but funds are going to become immensely important. Hence the application of project management principles, and Coenie and I will talk about that hereafter, as a vehicle, a methodology to ensure company survival. Yep. Everything that's going to happen after COVID, be it business redefinition or business process re-engineering, will require project management thinking and project management application. There's no way that we can reinvent our strategy without thinking in the background, how on earth are we going to implement whatever we redefine ourselves as in the market?
Wow. Yeah, so into my thoughts on that is that the reason why we practice project management in the first place is to do more with less. I mean, if you strip down everything, that's why we have a function of project management. I always, when we talk about this in class, I've got handbooks here on project management, and the first chapter of every handbook always says that the knowledge area of project management is very old, because they go back to the Hanging Gardens and the pyramids and the Great Wall of China. But they say, well, great projects. Well, my thought on that is a bit different, because I say that you can't really say you practice project management if you have unlimited resources and then time for that matter. If you think about, I mean, we've got 100,000 slaves. We die about 10,000 a day. It's fine. We'll just get someone else. Where in modern project management, we are very tied to the constraints that we have. So if you think about what happened over the last, you can go, almost last 100 years, but if you just think about what happened since 2007, 2008, and then this tragedy that's got us now, is that coming out of this, we're going to have to do even more with even less. Yeah. And that's what I think we are really sitting in a place where project management is going to become so important. I was talking about project organizations, but I mean, we are actually coming into a place where you say it's not just project organizations going to benefit from this. I mean, we all now know that all organizations do projects and project management on some level. And with the constraints that we have, time constraints, cost constraints, being more accurate and in line with our business case and what we want to achieve, even more important these days.
What Coenie mentioned, folks, is that we should be careful not to think as projects only for something such as a construction company. A financial company hereafter will have to deploy projects in the same fashion as any other entity, because we will be able to utilize the project management skill sets that we have in order to implement business redefinition. I'm talking about business redefinition post-COVID. The fact is, life will never be the same again. The COVID-19 pandemic created the perfect storm. And if you are from South Africa, our economy was not in a good state prior to COVID-19, and henceforth, hereafter, when our president decreases the lockdown regulations and we've got to go back to business, we will have to sit back, re-establish our strategy, and then anticipate what we're going to do new hereafter. And when you mentioned, Coenie, with doing more with less, because the fact is that resources are going to be constrained. Colleagues, I've started a poll. Just indicate whether you are in the project management domain. We just like to have a feeling about what does our audience look like.
We want to see if you guys are actually listening or just putting it on while checking your emails.
I want to talk again about the business case, Coenie. Those of you who are professional project practitioners and who are registered with Prince 2 will know of the concept that we refer to as the continuous business case. Now, I did mention earlier that the business case is the initial driver that necessitates a project, and as Coenie has mentioned quite rightly, that emanates out of your strategy. But in terms of Prince 2, one has to manage, one of the principles of Prince 2 is to manage your projects in phases. And from a practitioner's perspective, I believe that's one of the most powerful methodologies that one can use as a project manager. But one of the elements of managing by phases is that at the end of each phase, the executive should confirm. And if I say the executive, that's Prince 2 speak for the sponsor. The executive must confirm that the business case is still valid. Now, the reason for that is that if I have an excellent project manager, which is executing a project, and we commence with a specific business case, but because of any economic realities, the business case has eroded, it doesn't make any sense anymore to invest time, effort, and money in a project. And therefore, there must be a decision taken by the executive to say, and this is going to happen quite frequently after COVID-19, is the original business case that we anticipated prior to this worldwide economic reality, is it still valid? And do we still have to continue with the project hereafter?
That's it, yeah. So just before we continue, I've stopped the poll now. It's interesting. We are sitting with about 38% people who's not in the project management domain. So welcome to you guys and welcome to everybody. But yeah, 61% says yes in the project domain, and I see just scrolling quickly through the comments. Is some nice comments. We're going to open it up for some questions later on. I just want to quickly address, sort of linking to what you just said, MC, about that is about another. Let's call it a characteristic of projects, project management, and that is the project always brings change. Yeah. So I'm just very excited to think about what are the changes that's going to come out of this whole COVID-19 situation which we are in, and to think about it in a different way, is turning it around, saying, listen, we've got in a normal situation, we've got a lot of things that we want to reach, and we spoke about the strategy and in line with everything, but as a result of the projects, we're going to have change in our organizations. Yeah. Now let's turn this around and think, as a result of the change around us currently, what are the projects that's going to come out of this? And not just the projects, but also the way we do things. And I'm sort of almost transitioning into the next sort of sub theme that we are talking about is doing things, not just doing different things, but doing things differently. And And I'm very excited to think about what's going to come out of all of this in terms of just the way we run our projects.
Yeah. Well, colleagues, all of us have, and I hope you have got the same experience that what Coenie and I had recently, is that we've embarked on the Zoom platform. And we are doing meetings in Zoom in a fashion that we've never done it before. I spoke to a friend of mine who's in the IT domain yesterday, and we spoke about the application of Zoom, and he said that since COVID-19 started and the lockdown commenced, and they do their project meetings with Zoom, he's got the perspective that things are happening quicker. And we couldn't get to a reason for that. But Coenie and I spoke this morning. In the past, when you had a project meeting, typically it was in a boardroom and you had your resources with you and you discussed progress and you discussed issue. Now we do it remotely. And I firmly believe that this methodology of communication is going to become embedded in organization doctrine going forward. I don't think, as we adapted in South Africa with load shedding, and you had to make a plan to deal with load shedding, and that became a mannerism in your daily conduct. I believe this new methodology, amongst others, with its own implications, is going to become part and parcel of project management.
Now, it's going to be, I think it's going to go both ways. Now, I mean, there's going to be we are probably, and I'm not only talking about managing projects and project management, but I'm talking about business as a whole, is going to fundamentally change from now on. We are forced to do this. I've got a friend who lives in Johannesburg, and they're working on a project in Cape Town. They've been coming down every Wednesday and Thursday every day for about 2 years in the normal working weeks. And I spoke to him last week. He said to me, "It's unbelievable, Coenie. We've been spending all this money. We've been traveling all this time. We're away from our families. Nothing changed because they are in the transport industry. So nothing's changed from when they were still coming down and not everything running smoothly. But yet they do things totally different." So my opinion in this is there's two things. Let's talk project management again. Is that I always say, and in class we say that you need to hold back your horses. You need to plan very carefully. You need to get your ducks in a row before you start executing. Because the better you execute, the better you plan, the better you execute. And in that sense, at this moment, the current situation which we are in, I think it's great because we have a moment now to just sit back, replan, and get our ducks in a row for when we get out. But maybe let's talk post the situation which we are currently in. Is that we're going to need to think differently about the way we're going to do. And there's two things I want to address to the two things I want to say is. Number one, what I've seen now, and I work with a few organizations, and I see a lot of things happening. You could see that the more successful, if you can call it that, are the ones that's reacting quickest.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, just if you think about the relation between a university and USB, it is the difference between how quickly they adapt, but also all sorts of other organizations. So on the one side, I feel we really need to react and adapt very quickly.
Yeah.
Without forgetting that we can't just irrationally just go on and do stuff, because that's also very dangerous. And my project manager's heart, and that's so I'm almost talking about two sides. I'm talking about entrepreneurial heart, saying do things, react, make change, get in there quickly and solve the problem. But on the other hand, we need to say, okay, but we still need to sit back. We need to have a real good plan before.
Yeah, plan it. No, I was interrupting you. Planning it, although it's necessary to do it quick, one still never has to forget the reality of thinking before you're acting. And I think that is what you imply. Yeah. What was the second item, Coenie? That was the one you mentioned.
No. So I'm just talking about the two contradictions between reacting very quickly, jumping on that, but also doing things systematically and. Listen, MC, let's do another poll to see if everybody's in there. We've got another question, and this question we want to ask: in what level of project management are you involved with? So I'm going to start the poll now. The first level is resource level. Are you working as a project resource? Are you on project management level or project sponsor or organizational management level? So let's just publish this one. We can have some interaction there. I see we are currently standing at 234. 234 delegates on this session. Very nice.
Yeah. Colleagues, going forward, this is a rather interesting phenomenon that Coenie and I were contemplating earlier this morning when we spoke. I've got one of my approaches towards project management is that you show me a project manager which hasn't got good interpersonal skills, and I show you a project which is probably in trouble, because as a project manager, you interact, or we used to interact on a very personal level with our resources. And the whole new methodology of communication, which, as a matter of fact, ties into Industry 4.0, which realities are that we've got to face going forward, will require interesting new interpersonal mannerisms. I've experienced that personally over the last 2.5 weeks or 3.5 weeks with the lockdown, that at some stage you feel remote and you feel isolated from your colleagues, and because you're working on your own in front of your laptop 6, 7, 8 hours a day. Therefore, my perspective as Coenie, and I'd like to hear what you say, is that the project manager should, in addition to the normal project management attributes or skills, also become very sensitive for these EQ measures, in terms of, although we're remote going forward, there still should be some way of creating a team spirit, some sort of a cohesiveness with the team, although we're not physically in the same space.
That's it. MC, before I answer you, I just want to end the poll here. We are sitting on 19% project resource level, 69% project management level, and we've got about 11% on a project sponsor level. So that's a very nice mix. I could expect a bit more people on the project level. Very nice. Thank you for taking part in that. Yes, MC, I mean, we know that I would say the single biggest obstacle in project management or challenge that we have is the fact that we deal with people. So I'm always jokingly, and I always want to say, put in jokingly in inverted commas, is that engineers by nature are not good project management or not good with people, but most of them becomes project managers. So that's the contradiction that we sit over there. But we know that it's not easy. We know that it's difficult already. And I would say that's probably the best way, or the biggest obstacle that we had up to now, to do something like this, to totally go online. Yeah. So we're sitting with a problem that's already a problem, and we say let's make it worse by saying you may not see each other, because we all work different. Now, something very interesting. You're talking about the last 2 weeks. I mean, I've got 3 smallish kids, primary school kids, and what's happening in the schools. And what really interesting is the different kind of relationships, or the different kind of, I almost want to say, leaders that came out of this in terms of doing stuff remotely. Some teachers, what I thought, I didn't even know that they were teachers, are really coming out and do things in a different way, and they are influencing indirectly. And that, I think, is the challenge, is to influence indirect, because now you can't just pop in, have a coffee, have a quick chat, and then see, can see how they are. I want to take it further. I mean, the cycle that we went through in the teaching environment the last month. Yeah. When it just happened, everybody says go online, make videos, and let them know what's going on in the content. After about 3 days, I said, "Oh, we've got a bandwidth problem in South Africa. You can't just dump a bunch of videos, 1 gigabyte of video, to someone who does not even have a data on his phone or whatever." So we moved back from saying, very directly, very video orientated, very nicely, right back to say, just give them a presentation, a PDF presentation, not even a voiceover or a voice note. And I think that's where we as project managers are going to really start to have to become more creative in terms of that as well, is to say, but let's use our strong points to again influence without contact, even now, not even without authority or indirect influence, is to say, but how can I do better in terms of influence better in terms of the resources that we have? I don't know. Does it make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense, but Coenie, the fact is that we will have to revisit these competencies again. I firmly believe, colleagues, and I've been in the training environment now for a number of years, and I remember quite distinctly after 2007, there was an absolute spike in the market for training and project management. And believe me, I'm not trying to do a marketing campaign, but year after, the redefining of the project management skill set in terms of a new reality is absolutely work that has to be explored. I firmly believe that life has changed. We will talk about this era as pre-COVID and post-COVID in terms of economic realities, even the way that your kids are being taught at school, Coenie, but also where we are in the professional project domain. Colleagues, I've seen a few good questions on the chat site. Hanneke, I've noted your question, and we will respond here after our support colleagues are making a list of important questions that we can exchange afterwards. Coenie, from your side, where do you see us in 4 or 5 years' time in terms of project management as a career?
When I started, again, when we talk about the timeline of project management, it's always to say, but let's go back. Technology, no? I think there's like a red list and a green list out there saying, what is computers and artificial intelligence going to take over as careers in the next 10 to 15, 20 years? I'm really not worried, and I've become less worried about computers taking over project management. I know my approach to project management is quite a strategic, high-level approach. But so you can get it. What I'm trying to say is you can get a computer to do a schedule for you, or to work out your critical path, and to pop out a message to whoever needs to know what the new problem brought and who's going to change on the critical path. But you need someone with a higher level project management thoughts, and we do that in class as well, MC, where we say that study that, I don't know who did that study in the 80s, saying what's the more important skills than and they've got the analytical skills and the leadership skills, and they've done it a while ago again, and it's totally changed around. We say the leadership skills are starting to become more important because we've got all this nice software and stuff to assist us with that. So I'm not worried that we as a function is going to be away, but I think we need to change the way we think about the role of organizations.
Yeah. And now, what I would implore, and specifically because we've got such a large volume of attendees this morning who are in the project management domain, colleagues, and there are some good institutions out there, various universities and various colleges which present excellent training opportunities, and I really would urge the typical project manager to stay abreast of the changes in the reality. The fact is, it's a dynamic domain. And the way that I was taught project management 30 years ago and what it is today has differed substantially. So stay abreast of the realities, and do not regard that as a challenge, or as a threat, but rather as a challenge. Going forward, Coenie, just 2 minutes. Going forward, for our economy and for the country, we need project managers who can make things happen post-COVID. COVID is not only negative. I firmly believe there are some benefits, and not benefits. Every dark cloud has got a silver lining, and I think there are some silver linings as well.
Now, MC, I want to add to that. And when you talk strategy again, I always use the example in class about BlackBerry. So we're sitting in a class of 30 or 40 people, and I say, I'll just look at your tables. I say, not even 8 to 10 years ago, there would have been 90% BlackBerry phones on the tables, and it was like that. Today, I was talking. I got a nice message from Facebook the other day saying my post about 10 years ago, saying very excited on my new BlackBerry. I read that in my living room to my wife, laughingly, and my kids looked at me and they said, "What's a BlackBerry?" And I said, I never thought at that moment that a BlackBerry would have been something that someone doesn't know about. And I think the lesson that I have in that, if you think about the brands at stake, and I don't want to go into that, but we as project managers mustn't become BlackBerries. It's nice to have, and that's why I always go to the fundamentals, the ground principles of project management, and not the methodologies. The methodologies are well placed for that, and we need to have that as well. But if you keep the principles and the foundations of that in place, then you can put any layer on top of that, whether it's software, whether it's a challenge, whether it's the way we manage, whether it's any type of projects. We're going to be able to to have success in that. And that's what I like about what you said, is that we need to adapt. We need to adapt, and go back to my thing that I said earlier, is we need to adapt quick. I mean, that's something that we need to do. But we need to adapt systematically and strategically, and make sure that we've got the systems and processes in place before adapting to the wrong way, maybe.
Yeah, and it should be a well thought out organizational perspective. Colleagues, companies that excel, and I'm really talking of experienced companies who excel in retaining their position in the marketplace, are typically companies who also excel in project management. And my message in closing, before we close the webinar and take a few questions, my message in closing will be embrace this competency or this skill set that you have. We really need good project managers, and in the reality hereafter, your skill set will be in high demand. I want to repeat what I've said earlier. Company redefinition or business process reengineering hereafter, at the basis of successful implementation of whatever your company or your organization is going to do hereafter, will be project management competencies. And I want to reiterate the fact of a scarcity of resources being funds and adequately trained people.
That's it. Yeah. So in closing, from my side as well, is it's a difficult time coming. I mean, if you can look at it from a resource point of view, saying, listen, most of the projects are canned, lots of the work is done. I think really that we've got something that we can offer. Maybe not in a normal way that we are used to. But if we apply our minds and we become more, I mean, if you know what you can offer to organization, and a project management's role or manager's role is very important. I mean, we can't be without them. Maybe you are used to doing one big project for one company. Maybe we need to do 10 small projects for 10 companies. I don't know. That's probably one of the things that we need to face going forward. And yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to what's lying ahead in terms of if we get out of this.
Colleagues, thank you for your attendance. I see there's been some questions. Can I ask our administrators to revert back to us while they're busy? We want to wish you the best. Thank you for spending this half an hour with us. I will make an effort to have some follow-ons, maybe in terms of sponsorship and leadership and EQ in the project space. But from our side, really, the best of wishes, and stay strong for the last week and a half of lockdown. We wish you good health for yourself and your families, and when you return to normal work, professional activities, everything of the best. We've got to make it work hereafter. Thank you for your time. We do appreciate, and everything of the best. Coenie, last word from your side?
No, I just when I was talking to my kids before coming in, obviously I had to tell them not to run in while we're busy. My 10-year-old son says, "Dad, you have to remember to say something funny." So I don't know. I don't have anything funny more than maybe just. I know that most of you are sitting probably in your pajamas doing work at the moment, which is funny enough for me. Okay, thanks a lot, Epsia.
Go well. Bye.